Hi everyone, thanks so much for coming for the latest SoPHE Global CPD webinar. My name is Jack Batley, I'm Membership Services Coordinator here at CIBSE, so effectively help with the day-to-day runnings of the societies, including SoPHE. Just a really quick one from me. Firstly, the webinar is recorded, so the recording will be circulated afterwards and also uploaded to the SoPHE website. And I will also be sending out CPD certificates to attendees. That will be done. Both of them will hopefully be circulated within the next week. So yeah, if you've got any questions, just put them in the chat log. Over to you, Malcolm. Cheers.
Thanks, Jack. Right, good afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you may be in the world. I'm Malcolm Atherton. I'm the SoPHE regional representative for in the north of the UK. And for those of you who don't know what SoPHE is all about, the Society of Public Health Engineers, we were founded in London roughly 20 years ago. We are affiliated to CIBSE, and our aim is to provide a higher profile and focus for PH engineers within CIBSE and obviously within the wider building services industry. As well as technical events such as this, we also have various social events which admittedly during the pandemic we haven't been able to do, but we are starting slowly but surely to get out there. So, you know, watch this space, I think it's called. We have various representatives up and down the UK. We also have a representative in Australia, New Zealand, and even the UAE. As of September this year, we had approximately 1,100 individual members worldwide. And we also have what we call industrial associate members. So that's the likes of manufacturers, contractors, manufacturers such as ZIP, of which there are currently 69 of them. So without further ado, I'm going to shut up now and hand the virtual floor over to Leah. It's all yours.
Thank you, Malcolm. So hi everyone, thank you, welcome, and thank you for being here for this CPD. My name's Leah Morrisey from ZIP Water. I'm the Specification Manager for the Northwest of the UK. And so basically today's CPD that we're going to run through is specifying hygienic drinking water solutions in a post-COVID world. Obviously, it's a very current CPD and one that I think you'll all find quite interesting as we go along. Just a quick one, we have got my colleague Alex, who is obviously not on camera, but he is via the chat box. So instead of opening up a Q&A at the end of the presentation, because there's so many people sort of registered, if you do have any questions as we go along, if you want to pop the question into the chat box, Alex will then be there to answer the question. And then if there is any that we don't manage to get to, we will pick them up and get back to you at the end of the presentation if we can, or again after if we're unsure on anything at that time. Also, just a quick one from myself. I am working from home, so hopefully you won't hear any background noise, but if you do, then I do apologise for that. I just wanted to give a bit of a heads up. Again, with working from home with the Wi-Fi, I'm going to just take my camera off, just so it's a little bit better signal as we go through. Okay, so the CPD that we're going to go through, basically I'm going to really quickly just give an introduction in terms of who ZIP are, who we are as a business, and then we're going to look at the learning aims of the presentation. But basically the whole census around the CPD is that we're going to look at what the future holds for us in a post-COVID world. We're going to look at drinking water applications and choosing the right product as well within the application itself, and choosing the right product. And then also we're going to look at new innovative technologies, and also the way, you know, if we can change behaviours and the way that we think about these technologies and how we can apply them, you know, to the office space, to the commercial space, to, you know, to create more wellness and well-being, and a more safer place for us to go back to work. And then there is also some case studies as well at the end that I'll briefly touch on. Okay, so just firstly on to ZIP and who we are. Well, we're known globally for being home to the world's most advanced drinking water systems. We've been perfecting our product range for over 70 years, and we utilise the latest in technologies and designs alongside innovative range of products. You know, we have products that offer filtered, boiling, chilled and sparkling water, but we also do offer hot water solutions as well, so not just drinking water, and we are a recognised market leader in our field. We have been a part of the Culligan Group, as you can see there, since 2017, and as you can see, all the other companies under the banner are also within the Culligan Group. I will leave my details up at the end of the presentation, so if you do require any further information...
Leah, sorry to interrupt. The slides aren't moving forwards.
Okay. Can you see that one?
No, it's still stuck on the very first one.
Sorry about that. Bear with me. I'll just have a quick look. Can you see that one?
Yes, we can, but we can see your notes as well.
Okay. Malcolm, sorry, there's a couple of colleagues that are saying it's working okay on their screen.
All right.
It
must be me then. It must be me. So long as everybody else is seeing it okay, that's the important thing.
Okay, I'll just share it again and we'll go from there again. Bear with me.
Okay.
So it should be back to the first slide now, is that right? Is everyone okay?
It is, yes. Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay, and then on to the...
Yeah, it's moving now. It's moving now.
Perfect.
Thanks, Leah.
No
Cheers.
problem, thanks, Malcolm. Sorry, just another bit of a technical one. I've had a message from Alex who's saying he's struggling to get into the chat box. He can't answer in the chat box.
Yeah, at the start it seemed to be disabled, but I think it should be working now. I can see that people have put a few comments in it now, so if they try again.
Great. Well, thank you. Sorry about that, everybody. Hopefully we should be okay to carry on now. So on to so following on from where we were. So anything with regards to Culligan Group or ZIP Water, I'll leave my details up at the end. If you do need any information on that, you can just contact me there. Okay, so on to the learning aims of today's CPD. It's kind of split into three sections. The first one being space. So we're going to start to look at different spaces in a commercial setting and understand how drinking water solutions can be positioned within that space. We're then going to look at technology, so understanding the different types of touch-free drinking water solutions available, and then some enhanced hygienic features as well. So not just touch-free, but other enhanced hygienic features that are available for drinking water solutions on the market. But before we do go on to this, do go on to sort of our learning aims and the first one of space, I just want us to get a bit of an idea of what the future does hold for us and the office, and how will companies and landlords start to entice the workforce back. You know, it's a hotly debated subject following the pandemic, but all opinions seem to be pointing to the same outcome, and that is really that an office environment is a must-have and a need for the future. There's been a lot of surveys conducted that sort of assess people's thoughts and opinions about the office space, what they've missed, what they feel might need to change, to make them feel comfortable when we do all start returning back to the office. Whether this be, you know, sort of on a flexible time, 1 or 2 days a week, or whether this be full time. But one survey that was conducted in the middle of last year found that 67% of people miss the interaction of the face-to-face engagement that they have with the peers within the office. You know, they miss having somewhere to go on that central hub. So being able to offer some sort of flexibility to employees whilst taking care of their well-being is key. You know, companies do, heavily rely on and invest on social capital, which is held within the networks, within their employees' knowledges, their ideas and the group resilience. And obviously without an office space or a central hub, that value is totally eroded. Obviously technology as well is going to play a huge part in making the return to an office a reality. Some of them technologies we're going to look into shortly. But you know, we're all looking and searching for ways to make buildings and offices a safer place for people to work, whilst maintaining the highest level of quality as well for the staff occupying that workplace. So, onto space. Well, what is it that we all sort of need from our workplace? Within the UK, you know, it was advised by the government that during lockdown, we were all to stay 2 metres away or 3 steps away from anyone that we don't live with. This advice has totally changed the way, you know, the pandemic has totally changed the way that we think about traditional spaces, not just office spaces, but obviously in this case, a traditional office workplace and kitchen, for example. So the old ways was all sort of gathering around the kettle or a single tea point, you know, are long gone, or at least they should be really. And we need to start to consider different ideas and areas in the workplace that we can start to spread out the flow of people to make it safe for everybody. So these office spaces are going to start looking like really, you know, less dense offices with more access to refreshment areas, tea points, and possibly, you know, chilled drinking water solutions as well that are in isolated spaces. We basically need to start adding in fewer places where people will unnecessarily gather. New technologies are going to help us do this, but you know, they're going to help us feel safe and secure. But we do want all this without sacrificing the home comforts as well that we've all sort of grown to come and love and expect in our working lives. So now more than ever, now we're all starting to get back to work following the pandemic. You know, now more than ever, health and wellness has never been so important, and there's a renewed focus on the commercial space and on drinking water solutions as well. And obviously water is critical for that. So what we're going to do in this next section is I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey. So we're going to go through sort of reception areas, meeting and conference spaces, kitchen areas, breakout areas, corridors, etc. And we're going to start to look at where we can introduce drinking water solutions and also what we need to consider. So things like, what's the type of building or the project that we're looking at? Is this sort of a warehouse where a wall boiler, for example, would be more suitable? Could it be that it's sort of a high-end office space where you know, an instantaneous tap is required, or maybe it's just somewhere you know, like a university, for example, where a high capacity unit is needed. All these sort of considerations need to be considered. We're going to look at the location of the product within the building, and we're also going to consider things like DDA compliance. Who will the product be used for? And again, what is it that the product's actually filling up? Are we looking at filling up just mugs and glasses for boiling and chilled water, or is it more sports bottles, for example? All these considerations must be thought about as we go through each individual spaces. So on to the first one, being the reception area. So obviously you only get one chance for a good impression, and whilst welcoming visitors to a space, their first encounter, you know, you want it to be positive, you want to make a good impression. And it's also now a norm for people to be offered a tea or a coffee or a cold drinking water when we do enter a reception space. So here, you know, things to consider are the aesthetics of the reception area. Can you get something that matches in with, you know, with the branding of the building, or just the aesthetics of the design? But also you need to think about within a reception space, do we have the right services? So, you know, do we have the capacity for waste, and also is there power, etc., and a main supply to be able to offer something like a floor standing chiller or a countertop drinking water product? If not, then, you know, a bottle fed cooler may be the only option if we don't have those services available. Onto the meeting and conference room area. So obviously this space is generally one where you're going to get a lot of people throughout the day coming in and out, generally where, you know, visitors come, or if there's larger board meetings, for example, offering CPDs again at lunchtime, you're going to get quite a lot of people through these spaces. So they generally have high usage and high footfall at certain times of the day. And you generally find within, you know, sort of meeting rooms and conference spaces that there's typically bottles of water or carafes of water which are filled out throughout the day. Obviously with plastic bottles, we all know they're not sustainable. You also have, you know, implications of PET leaching as well. So where antimony leaches from the plastic bottle if it's kept stored for too long. And then you have the issue with carafes as well, that you're constantly being refilled throughout the day. You tend to get quite a lot of wastage as well, pouring the water away. So yeah, just to consider things in these spaces is more like a high capacity unit, something where you're only dispensing the exact water that you need. And again, something like a countertop chiller, as you can see on screen here, would be perfect. And again, within this space, you need to make sure we have the power or wastage as well, the options there. Within the kitchen and tea point places, obviously this is a really high demand area, especially at certain periods of the day. I know myself, first thing in the morning, first thing I need is a tea or a coffee. So you go straight in to the kitchen, and that's where you tend to find everybody first thing in the morning too. Here again, it's important that we start to look at reducing the workflow of people. So introducing something like a freestanding filtered, boiling, chilled, even sparkling tap, and you can have this separate away from the kitchen sink. So again, people that are just coming in to maybe make a cup of tea, don't necessarily need to wash up anything up or go near the kitchen sink. They can just pop over to the tap and fill the drink up and then back to the desk. So you are reducing having two places. You know, having the tap and having the kitchen sink, you're reducing the flow of people within one space as well. With products in here, we really need to make sure that they're robust products and they, again, can cope with high demand. But also you want something that looks stylish in the kitchen surroundings as well. So again, take into consideration the type of building that we're looking to apply the product to, and can we get something that, you know, that fits in and ties in with the aesthetics. Other things to consider as well are sort of staff's drinking habits are sort of changing now. A lot of people are taking their own chili bottles into work to fill them up regularly throughout the day. Most sports bottles are about between 500 and 1,000 ml capacity, so it's vital that the products can cope with the level of service required as well within these spaces. And then on to the breakout areas and offices. So here, when we think about breakout areas or just general office floors, you know, it's not typically something where you would start to introduce maybe a floor standing chiller or a countertop chiller. But especially, again, post the pandemic, and the fact that the NHS does recommend that we all drink 6 to 8 glasses of water every day to replace normal water loss. You know, adding in a countertop or a floor standing chiller within a breakout space or area, again, you're encouraging people to drink, you're encouraging staff, and you're encouraging the wellness as well, and the staff's well-being within the space. Again, adding sort of a floor standing chiller or countertop option, you need to consider again whether wastage and power and etc. is required. But I think it's quite important to consider this sort of option, especially as I mentioned earlier, you know, we want to encourage the staff to be drinking more. And if we're all, I know I do it myself, you sit at the desk and, you know, you're in the middle of an email or it could be a phone call and you think, oh, I'll go and grab a glass of water. And then you look over to the kitchen and there's maybe 6 or 7 people already there or 4 people already there. And it kind of puts you off. You think, oh, I'll go in 20 minutes. So yeah, introducing something within the actual office space is then going to encourage your staff to get up and actually take on more water as well. So yeah, so really good, innovative and simple really solution to add in another, you know, another area or another drinking point within an office space, within a breakout area. Okay, so we've been through some obviously office spaces and what we can apply. And now we're going to look onto the second section of the new technology. So as we all know, drinking water traditionally has always been manually operated. But when we think about an office space, and you think about maybe even if it's just an office space of you know, a small office space of 10 people, 20 people, if you think about how many people are touching each surface throughout the day, it's quite a lot. On average, one person comes into contact with 43 workplace touch points a day. So obviously that's something to really consider following the COVID pandemic. The focus now following the pandemic, and quite rightly, is all about health and hygiene. And you know, we really want to try and encourage that within the workplace. So we're going to start to look at touch-free technology, but also other methods of dispensing as well. They're all sort of hygienic and safer. They're saving time and energy because you're only dispensing what's required at the time. It's a sustainable choice. You're kind of stepping away from any plastic bottles that's required or anything like that. It's the latest innovative technology where you could still got the option of, you know, having pure tasting water, and also it's encouraging, as I mentioned, wellness in the workplace. So with these sort of touch-free solutions as well, you don't need to compromise on the functionality of water either. You know, some manufacturers out there now offer drinking water systems that deliver boiling, chilled, sparkling, filtered water, all without the need to make contact with the product, but with that, you know, with good levels of filtration as well, making sure that we're getting, you know, this clean water, all while reducing the spread of viruses and bacteria. And again, just encouraging people to drink more water increases productivity and concentration. And again, you're really reducing down those touch points as well. So before we do go on to sort of looking at touch-free solutions, I'm just going to touch on the Wellbeing Standard. Obviously, I've mentioned a lot already, wellness and well-being are quite important. So the Wellbeing Standard is basically a performance-based system that's used for measuring and certifying and also monitoring features of the built environment that impact on our sort of health and well-being. This is, you know, generally through 8 different sections, as you can see here. So you've got water, food, lighting, movement, thermal comfort, sound, mind and community. Well basically aims to increase the rate of adequate hydration through building users and reduce health risks as well through contaminated and excessive moisture within the buildings. When we look at well specifically to water, it sort of states that clean drinking water is a prerequisite for optimal health. More than 2/3 of the human body is comprised of water, a major component of cells and the medium of transport of nutrients and waste through the body. So basically, well is making sure that we have access to clear, good tasting water, and also, you know, that we have access to clear and good tasting water, and again that we are reducing impact on the environment as well by reducing the need of plastic bottles. When we look again into more detail, the Wellbeing Standard sort of states that at least one drinking water dispenser should be within 100 feet of walking distance. So as we touched on within the breakout areas, it's a good example of if you introducing a floor standing chiller, for example, within a breakout space, you're then going to start to accumulate points towards the Wellbeing Standard as well. It also states that newly installed drinking water fountains are designed for water bottle refilling, which again is something I touched on earlier, making sure that you've got the capacity to fit a bottle under. And then it also states that the mouthpieces and outlets and protective guards of all the basins of drinking water fountains and dispensers are cleaned daily. So just to reiterate on the Well Standard, obviously, as I mentioned, by introducing some of these newer technologies and touch-free solutions that we're going to look at in a second, is then going to help you towards the Wellbeing Standard as well, encouraging safety and hygiene in the workplace. So on to the different types of touch-free solutions. We're going to look at capacitive and infrared technology, also foot pedals, and also retrofit and pushback handles as well. So capacitive technology is what we all know as basically as touch-free technology. With this sort of technology, there's no visible sensors to the product. It looks sleek and minimal when installed. Users don't tend to have to break a light beam or anything to activate the tap. It's all done through capacitive capacitance, which is basically an electrical charge, which measures your hand capacitance as the energy within your hand as you put it in front of the unit itself. So there's no need to kind of wave your hand and break a light beam. There's generally no light reflection issues either, so the tap won't accidentally turn on, as this can happen with certain IR sensors. In terms of the negative side, precise installation is required, so a professional should install the product to ensure it works correctly. And obviously it requires a power source as well to be able to use it. With the infrared touch-free technology, so this has sort of been used, we've seen it within washrooms for taps and urinals or even toilet flushers, but it's starting now to be introduced into drinking water solutions as well. The infrared technology basically uses a light beam that's projected from the sensor that activates the water flow. So when this light beam sort of hits an object, it reflects back into the sensor and it triggers the switch, which then opens the solenoid valve within the unit, allowing the water to flow. So the active IR sensor basically switches on as we break that light beam in between. In terms of the positives, you can have both mains and battery operation, infrared touch-free, or battery or power, both mains and battery operated. It's really quick and easy to install. You can get high visibility or light reflection issues, so water can activate if reflected light hits the IR beam. But with some products, you can change the distance of it as well. And the aesthetics, a visible sensor is necessary, which can obviously take away from the aesthetics of the product or make the washroom look less minimal. But obviously there are different options out there. In terms of safety considerations as well, must be considered with any sort of touch-free technology. What you don't want to do is walk past the product and it accidentally switches on. So there are products out there which offer like a dual system. which is sort of a foolproof contactless solution where you actually need to turn on 2 sensors instead of 1 by maybe cupping your hand around the product or making sure the safety lock's activated before using it. This basically reduces, workplace injury and scalding, and all by doing it by minimising contact as well. Another thing to consider as well is in terms of the drainage. So most water dispensers have a form of drainage, and the most common one is sort of a manual drip tray, which captures any spillages or drips. But there are products out there where you can actually have a plumbed waste solution, and with that, obviously, the drip tray enables a continuous draining away of any excess water. And this is generally can be connected to the waste pipe, within the kitchen sink. If you can extend that, obviously, away from the kitchen sink would be better to, again, reduce the workflow of people and have the tap in a separate area. So some other sort of dispensing options as well, instead of touch-free, that are out there on the market, are remote buttons or sensors, which are available for some drinking water applications. It's easier access, again, for wheelchair users, and they can be mounted to the front or the top of the worktop for ease. And again, there are some touch-free solutions as well out there. And then there are also things like braille covers, again, available to assist visually impaired users. Onto the foot operated, so as you can see that from the image there, you can't really see, apologies, at the bottom of the image, but there is a foot pedal there. Sometimes you can even get knee operated technology. It's really obviously basic and simple, but it's an effective way of dispensing drinking water without the need for contact, contact on the top or near where the water's dispensing. It's available as a complete product, or you can sometimes get retrofit to existing water coolers. It's a really simple, cost-effective solution and cannot be operated accidentally. But with these, it's not always obvious how to operate, and they generally are susceptible to damage or breaking under high usage as well. So maybe for a smaller sort of office space could be suitable somewhere with a bit of a lower budget as well. Then on to handles. So these are sort of easy to fit adapters, which sort of exist, which simply slip over the existing handles and vessels of wall-mounted products. They're suitable for many on-wall boiling products out there. Really simple to install and low cost. And they do just, as you can see, clip onto the top of the tap, and then you would use your cup or your mug or glass, and you would press in the bottom of the handle to then release the water. As I mentioned, simple to attach and dispense, safe and easy to operate, but they are sort of a low technology and probably a temporary solution. They can be easily sort of removed and lost as well. And then on to our final section of enhanced hygienic features. So we've looked at sort of products that we can install within the office space. We've looked at touch-free technology and other ways of dispensing. And now we're just going to touch on some of the more enhanced hygienic technology or features out there. So we're going to look at SteriTouch or Nanosilver technology, and also UV technology as well. So SteriTouch or nanotechnology can basically reduce surface bacteria by 99.99%. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that and in terms of how it can do it. And then again, same with the UV LEDs as well. They can help the reduction of common waterborne pathogens by up to 99.6%. First of all, if we look at the Nanosilver technology, why is silver used as a natural antimicrobial? Well, we've known the power of silver for a long time. It's well documented that it's been used in a variety of different things over the years. In the Middle Ages, Silver spoons were actually given by wealthy godparents to babies as christening presents, and the children actually benefited from the silver's purifying and antibiotic properties within the silver. So this led to the phrase "born with a silver spoon in your mouth." It's also been used upon the International Space Station. NASA's approved it to use silver to purify water. And it's been, long used for a very long time, even before antibiotics as well. So how does it kind of work? Well, positively charged silver ions attack and destroy bacterial cells in a number of ways. They form pores to puncture the cell walls, and they disrupt the cellular respiration, and they muddle up the DNA as well. They basically do this by stopping the spread through reproduction. So they stop the bacteria from reproducing, and then obviously eventually it dies off. A good example of it being used would be like a wound dressing. It helps clean out the wound and allows the wounded area to recover free from bacteria. So nanosilver is used extensively through the health sector. It's sort of used within hospitals through outdoor handles, light switches, curtains, water dispensers and bed frames. But it's also been used commercially and domestically as well throughout like washing machines, fridges, air conditioners, even computer keyboards and pads. So it's been, as I mentioned, it's been used a lot in history, but also we're still using it today as well. And drinking water systems are now the latest technology where this nanosilver is being used, and it should be an important consideration to think about when we are choosing a drinking water system to specify within a building or commercial space. On to the UV. So UV again has been a long accepted method of water treatment and sterilisation. Typical examples of common products that use UV we'll look at in a second, of how it works. But the first commercial UV lamps were made in the 1930s, and since World War II they've been used throughout the health and industry and manufacturing. And the first prototype for UV disinfection system for water treatment was found in Marseille in France in 1910. And today UV is still used in water treatments and plants across the globe too. So how does it work as a purification process? Well, there's three types of UV. We've got UVA, which has the highest wavelength and accounts for about 95% of the UV that reaches the ground from the sun. You've got UVB, which is basically the other 5% or so of the rays that reach the ground. It has a shorter wavelength than UVA and higher energy levels. So UVB is, as I'm sure we all know, it's the one that gives us sunburn. And then we have the UVC, which is the shortest wavelength and highest energy levels. Luckily, UVC is absorbed by the ozone layer, and none of it actually reaches the ground of the Earth, which is a really good thing. But because it doesn't reach here, it means that UVC actually has to be manufactured. As sort of glass and typical bulbs sort of absorb the UVC, UV lamps are typically made using quartz because of this reason. When bacteria or microbes are directly exposed to the UV, the DNA of the cells are damaged and prevent them from replicating. And if the cell can't reproduce, then obviously it can't cause any infection. The UV purification process as well is a physical process. There's no chemicals, so there's no byproducts or anything that are created within the process. So really safe. Today, ultraviolet disinfection is widely accepted as an effective treatment for the removal of various microbiological contaminants from water. And UV treatment is a recognised sterilisation process for water, air and surfaces as well. UVCs disinfect the water basically when it's being dispensed out of the drinking water unit. So it eliminates the chance, as I mentioned, of recontamination, delivering a 99.6% reduction of common waterborne pathogens. As I mentioned, it's a physical treatment, so there's no harmful chemicals, it's chemical free. And there's mercury free as well. So conventional UV lamps contain mercury, which is obviously quite hazardous to us, but choosing an LED which is mercury free, and then obviously you've got a fail-safe technology as well with UV solutions, water solutions out there, where, you know, if for any reason the UVC LED stops working, it prevents the dispensing of chilled water as well. So it's a fail-safe technology. So when we looked at these enhanced health and hygiene protocols, you know, whilst they're not all required for meeting building regulations or guidelines, it's now becoming sort of the norm following COVID that, you know, we do need to start looking at these enhanced hygiene protocols when providing drinking water solutions in the workplace. Providing these options acts as, you know, a clear point of difference for buildings in the modern world. As I mentioned, this is where regulations like the Well and Lead Standard start coming into play, and it's actually really, you know, beneficial for us all. If we are all drinking more water within the office space, we're experiencing physical and mental health benefits, and we're promoting health and well-being for staff and visitors alike. And with that, we're going to get more out of our employees and more out of ourselves as well. So yeah, all in all, if we can start to introduce some of these technologies, start making people feel a lot safer coming back into the workplace, we're all going to benefit from it in the long run. So in conclusion, what we've been through today is understanding how COVID has changed our attitudes and the way that we need to think about space. We've looked at you know, different areas within a commercial space and where we can apply product to it. We've then sort of touched and understood the different types of touch-free drinking water solutions out there and different drinking water dispensers. And then understood what other enhanced hygienic features are available as well on the drinking, you know, for drinking water solutions on the market. Just quickly before I finish, just a couple of case studies I want to run through. So this is the Hippodrome Casino in London. It's home to one of the most popular, you know, places in the casinos in the UK, in London's West End. And they were basically looking for ways to reopen the doors safely, again, following the summer months in 2020, following the lockdown. So when choosing products for the new canteen area, the Zip HydroChill HC50 was picked throughout the site. They decided to specify a brand new floor standing chiller. It's touch-free dispenser again to ensure the staff can stay hydrated. And as you can see, Mike Hayden has stated that, as always, we were particularly impressed by the all-round friendliness and helpfulness. Zip have a very proactive approach to solving problems and finding solutions. They've had a lot of great feedback as well from using this product. And then just finally onto the Overbury office. So having already had a Zip HydroTap installed in the London head office for a number of years, Overbury, which are a long-standing client of Zip's and one of the UK's leading fit-out companies, is one of the first. They were one of the first in the country to have their existing HydroTap upgraded to a touch-free wave within the office as well. So yeah, really benefited from that as well in their office. But as I mentioned, if you do have any questions or anything further with regards to Zip, then you know, then I will pop my details up at the end, and you can just get in touch with myself. I think I'll just have a quick look on the chat, see how we're getting on.
So I think some people are having issues with
Okay.
getting on the chat. So what we could do is, if people have a question, they can put their hands up and I could unmute them, or if you're happy to do it like that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's no problem.
Yeah, so if people got a question, they want to put their hands up, I'll go through one by one and unmute your mic for you.
Perfect. So are there any questions from anybody?
Stefan's had his hand up for quite a while.
Stefan, yeah.
Stefan, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Sorry, there was no question. That was a mistake. Thanks.
No problem. Are there any more questions from anyone?
Well, that's certainly unusual, Leah. I think you must have bamboozled them.
I hope so. I hope it's a good thing. But like I said, what I'll do is I'll pop my details in. Apologies, there was a slide at the end that's not showing with my details on. So I'll pop my details in the chat. And then again, hopefully everybody can send me an email or give me a call if you do have anything further they want to discuss with regards to the CPD.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Thank you. Thank you, Leah. Doesn't appear as though we got any questions. So thanks everyone for joining us. The intention is to periodically still continue with these online CPDs, as well as the individual regions doing their face-to-face CPDs as well. If you